Mr. Wagner, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can. We can go ahead and start. You want to turn your mic on over there?
Do we have any video clips?
Because I tried to invite him, no.
Okay.
I'm trying, but it's not letting me bring up the screen.
We have everyone here?
We do, yes, sir.
All right, we ready to start?
Yes, thank you.
All right, I'm hereby going to call this meeting to order. It's a special magistrate for the town of Gulfstream. I appreciate everyone's patience while we do this digitally. I appreciate getting this digitally up there as quickly as you did, so thank you so much. The meeting is going to proceed according to the agenda, so I will turn it over to the town attorney to call the case.
Thank you, Magistrate. This is a status hearing in case number CE 2302, 2900 Avenue au Soleil. This is a follow-up from a previous hearing that was held October 4th, which resulted in an order dated October 16th, which found 3 violations on the property and scheduled this status hearing for October 20th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m., at which time you will determine a date for the property owner to correct the aforementioned violations. Again, the violations are the condition of the principal building in violation of 2231-9, the seawall in violation of Town Code Section 2231-20, and the windows of the principal building in violation of Code Section 2231-21. So again, the first violation relates to the dilapidated condition of the structure that's unfit for human habitation. The second one is a seawall that falls into a state of repair or ruin so as to allow erosion to the land adjacent thereto. And then the final one regards the windows and permitting makeshift hurricane protection devices such as plywood or similar material to remain in place except for 14 days prior to storm landfall and 14 days following storm passage. So that hearing resulted in an order, and I did provide the magistrate with a copy of an email sent from me to the property owner, Bhavin Shah, and his attorney, Ellie Zacharidis. That is Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. And that attached the order, which immediately follows. We have done some research and homework on behalf of the town. Just for your benefit, sir, we do have Bhavin Shah, the property owner, who was in attendance at the previous meeting. He is in attendance today, as well as myself, Attorney Trey Nazaro, and Town Manager Greg Dunham. So some of the other materials that I provided to you, and I'm handing them to Mr. Shah. We have a first page. The top corner is 10/17/23 at 3:38 p.m. Highlighted is SFR demolition, that is demolition of a single family residence, and it's highlighted that it was issued July 11th and finaled August 10th, 2023, so that is within 30 days. I also have a sheet that has 10/17/23 3:39 p.m. in the top left corner, and highlighted are install seawall under project description, issued 1/19/23, finaled 9/13/23. So that gives the town an idea based on the most recent permit submittals that have been closed out. Given the current uncertainties with construction, that is the best idea of what we have as far as how long it will take to construct an entirely new seawall and demolish a single family residence. So I have been in conversations back and forth with Mr. Shah this morning, the property owner, as well as his representative, Ms. Zacharidis, and we have agreed to what we believe is reasonable, which is that the permit be issued for a demolition of the structure within 7 days. of today, and the structure be demolished within 42 days, which equates to 6 weeks of the permit issuance. And that will correct the first and third violations that I spoke of. And the seawall permit, a seawall permit, be issued within 42 days, which is 6 weeks, which would be by December 1st, and the work be completed no later than August 1st, 2024, and that would give them 8 months. So the property owner has indicated, and I won't put words in his mouth, he'll have the opportunity to speak, but has indicated that he may want to rehab the seawall, and this really is just dependent on a sale. We would be fine with a seawall permit to do some sort of corrective work being issued by December 1st, which is again 6 weeks. That should give them plenty of time either to determine whether or not the sale is in fact going through, and the contract purchaser can get all of his engineering work and everything done. Or if that maybe falls through, there would be a smaller rehab project that would be applied for with a permit within that 42-day, 6-week period. And then we would just ask that we work with them to perhaps shorten that time of compliance in the event that is a much smaller job than an entire seawall replacement. So that's what we've agreed to in principle. I think that it's very reasonable for the town.
I have your time frame. So for the building, a demolition permit within 30 days, the demolition done within 45 days. For the seawall, a permit within 42 days, which I guess is December 1st. And then when did you want when was the town recommending that the seawall repair or replacement be completed?
August 1st, 2024.
That seems very reasonable to me. Let me hear from the respondent.
And just so we're clear, we're asking for, because they have the respondent has already started the permit process, which he indicated when we were here 2 weeks ago. The permit still has not been issued, but we believe that it will be easy for them to obtain within 7 days. So we're asking that the permit be obtained and issued within 7 days of the hearing, and then 42 days, 6 weeks after permit issuance for compliance. So that's the town's position.
Hear from the respondent.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yes. Hello, Mr. Magistrate.
Hello, I appreciate your patience. The city's deadlines seem fairly reasonable to me. I just want to get your sense of whether or not you agree.
Yeah, I think they seem in line. The only issue that I have right now is, as I mentioned in the last hearing, the property is under contract to be transacted, and I have very limited opportunities to do anything until the property is transacted. The closing date for the sale is scheduled to be December 6th, which is exactly, I don't have my calendar in front of me, but I'm approximately 7 weeks or so from today. If by chance the permit were approved, let's say tomorrow, because upon checking the status of the permit, I was told yesterday that there were no open issues at Highland Beach, and at Gulfstream, I believe there was one box that might not have been checked that was checked yesterday. Again, I'm not sure how accurate that is. This is what my expediter told me. So if the permit shows up tomorrow or Monday, I would have to, per the town's timelines, have to demolish this within the period where I'm prohibited from doing anything. So I was just wondering if the town would be open to any kind of flexibility with respect to that, giving me an outside date as opposed to X days from the time the permit is issued to address this concern.
So
This is
your
with
concern is
respect,
the
this is with
demolition.
respect to demolition specifically. I think with the seawall, the town is being, excuse me, just getting over a cold. I think the town is being fair. And I think it does require us to, before the contract period is over, to either file a permit for rehabbing the seawall, or if I can convince the new owner, assuming they're going forward with it, to essentially file a permit for a new seawall. But obviously that's going to be dependent on their closing They certainly intend to do that if they're the new owner, but that closing is until December 6th. So that is the challenge that I have. I certainly want to be responsive to the town's concerns. I just don't want to
Both
be
of these deadlines both of these deadlines for both the demolition permit and the seawall permit are gonna put you prior to your closing date, December 6th.
Yeah, so the permit for the demolition has already been filed. So, regardless of what we do here, our intention is, assuming that we keep on getting more violations on the property until we demolish it, is to demolish the property. The only concern is that I can't physically go demolish it until the prospective buyer gives me approval while I'm under contract. So my hands are a little bit tied. Although the buyer and I are on the same page, we just need to make sure that we have adequate time to establish who's doing what, because it's already a contract in which, both parties have executed the documents. And with respect to the demolition wall, sir, um, if the city were amenable to giving us until after the contract date to file a permit for either the rehab or the new seawall, that would give us a more definitive view on which direction we're going in, assuming the property were not sold. It might be a rehab, whereas if the property were sold, I want to give the new owner the flexibility to file their permit.
Let me hear from the town.
Thank you, Magistrate. This is Attorney Nazar on behalf of the town. So part of the allowance of 42 days and 6 weeks from the permit issuance, as opposed to 30 days, which is how long it will take, was a compromise position on the town based on the agreement that that the property owner would be amenable to that. So given this sort of change of course, we would ask for a 30 days from that October 27th, which would put us, a little bit before Thanksgiving. And again, I think that's reasonable. The contract purchase can change. It can be amended. There are some issues that may end up with it falling through. So we just want to make sure that we get these violations corrected in a timely manner. This has unfortunately been dragging on longer than we'd want. We did ask that the magistrate not set a reasonable time for compliance, given conversations that were had at the commission meeting that I think were very promising for the property owner, and assured him that in fact, yes, the property can come down and some sort of agreement reached. And it's my understanding that the potential purchaser, or really any potential purchaser, the highest value of this property is going to be with the demolition. So with that in mind, we would ask for, like I said, a 30-day demolition after the permit is issued. Now, the property owner mentioned the demolition has been filed. That has been correct for about 30 days. Filing something is just submitting a paper. There's been no activity on that since last night. That includes the 2 weeks since our previous hearing. So we have not really seen any good faith effort on behalf of the property owner. So again, with that in mind, we just like to tighten that date up a little bit. And then we'd also like to amend our request regarding the seawall permit. We'd ask that we have a 3-month compliance if it is a rehab, and we would stick to the August 1st, 2024 date if it is a complete replacement. So just to make sure that the town is protected and some actual work is getting done on this property, given the lack of progress that we've seen historically, even under request for compliance with our code.
So on the seawall, hold on 1 sec. So just so I make sure I understand the town's request. So on the demolition, the town is asking for 7 days to get the permit issued, and demolition 30 days after the issuance of the permit. On the seawall, you're asking for how long to get the permit issued, or to apply for the permit?
So we would allow, consistent with what we had asked before, that's at December 1st for a permit to be issued to determine whether or not what's happening with the sale, and whether or not the owner is looking for a potential rehab. And then in the event it is not a full replacement, we would like compliance within 3 months. And if it is a full replacement, we would continue with our position that it would need to be done by August 1st, 2024.
Okay, let me give the respondent one more chance here to reply. So as I understand that the city wants to do the demolition a little bit quicker. I think their seawall position is actually very fair to you. The demolition might be quick, I think, but I do understand the city's position that this has taken a fair amount of time.
So first of all, Mr. Magistrate, maybe I misspoke, but I was not challenging the timelines that the city put in front of me. I was simply asking if the date that they're giving me for the approval of the permit, and then combined with the time that I would have to demolish the property, could be combined into one end date, as opposed to the 7 days, where we're making a big assumption that the permit could take 7 days or 30 days or 1 day, after which the clock starts, and I have 42 days. I was simply just asking the city if they'd be open to a flat number of days to execute the deal, which would still bring them within the compliance date that they initially offered. I was not asking them to, you know,
What
extend
did you
this.
have in mind? I mean, tell me what you're thinking.
I was thinking that I would have 6 weeks from the point of which I would get the permit approved. So if I get the permit approved tomorrow, then I have, I have 6 weeks from the 27th. And in a conversation, I believe, I don't want to speak for you, Mr. Attorney, but I believe the conversation with my attorney yesterday was that the permit will be issued on 27th of October, after which you would have 6 weeks to demolish the property. I was willing to accept that timeline, but if the permit is issued a few days earlier, then my clock for the 42 days starts earlier. And there is still a lot of stuff that needs to be done even after the permit is issued. I'm relying on FPL. I'm relying on a bunch of other people to come and do the proper disconnections, which the FPL date that they've given me has already been 8 weeks, 6 to 8 week time range. And I'm beholden to some of those. And I also believe that we've exercised a lot of good effort to get the permit and everything filed. I don't want to challenge the city any longer because I'm trying to establish good faith here, but I don't think it's accurate that we've just been sitting on our butts for the last 30 days. With respect to the seawall, I'm prepared to accept what the city offered, which was, and I didn't challenge that, which was filing a permit by December 1. I simply asked if they would be willing to move the filing date till after my closing date, but if they're not, then we'll try to work within that time frame and then honor the timeline that they've put forth for the actual fix of the seawall, or the replacement of the seawall. So the only concern I have is the clock for the demolition. Does it start the date I get the permit, or is there an outside date from today when you pass your order to get this demolished outside of when the permit is issued? I hope I didn't confuse the issue further.
No, there's a lot of dates, so I just have to make sure I keep them straight. All right, this is what we'll do here. So there's two issues, which is the permit for demolition and then the permit associated with the seawall, and then the subsequent closing of those permits, in other words, completing the work on the property, which is also confused by the transaction associated with this property. And I appreciate all of those concerns. I also appreciate the town's view that these things have gone on a while and they're serious and they need to be addressed. So this is what I'm going to do. As to the permit for demolition, I'm going to give the respondent 7 days to obtain that permit, and then I will give them 42 days after the issuance of that permit to complete the demolition. On the seawall, I'll give the respondent until December 1st to obtain a permit. The permit can be either for rehabbing the wall or replacement of the wall. That's up to the respondent. If they apply for a rehab, I will give them 3 months to do the rehab after the issuance of the permit, 3 months from the date the permit is issued. And as for the replacement, I will give them until August 1st, 2024 to complete the replacement. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes, sir. We'd also like to request administrative costs, which I believe pursuant to code are $150. So if you could incorporate that into your order as well. And also, to the extent that we're looking at a fine assessment hearing down the road, I would like to set that, if the magistrate is available, December 15th, which is a Friday.
All right, let me let me pull out my calendar so I make sure I put it on the calendar. Let's see. December.
And
I
we
can
could
do
do not,
December 5th.
and we could do 9:30 in the morning again if you're available.
Okay. Gulfstream. So this is going right on my calendar right now, which is one advantage. Gulfstream, 9:30. Assessment. All right, that works for me. So I'm going to amend the previous order to assess cost the amount of $150. I'm also going to set this for fine assessment if necessary, 9:30 a.m., December 15th, 2023 at the town hall.
May I make one comment, sir?
Sure.
I think I agreed to essentially everything from what you stated in the order, not agreed to. You essentially took this town's initial option, which the city attorney had provided, with the exception of reducing the timeline for compliance of the rehab of the seawall. I think initially the town had offered me up to August for either the rehab or the demolition, if I'm not mistaken. And now it's been walked back. Because I'm not getting any accommodation on anything else I asked for relative to the town's initial ask, I would ask the town if they're willing to, essentially provide me the same consideration they provided yesterday to my attorney without, reducing the timelines for compliance, because nothing has changed relative to your ask from yesterday.
What specifically are you asking for, sir?
The timeline, if I'm not mistaken, the city attorney can confirm the timeline for whether it be a rehab of the seawall or
I can jump
sorry.
in, Your Honor. So in my original email correspondence, which was unchanged from Wednesday, October 18th, which Your Honor, the respondent, the town manager, myself, all have a copy of, the last paragraph there states, and I will read directly from it, and I quote, "Please confirm that the seawall will need to be completely replaced so we can agree to this timeline. Any smaller replacement / Band-Aid will have a significantly shorter time for compliance." So I would just state that, of course, the town is being consistent and utterly reasonable. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and also let me point out to the respondent in this particular case, the reason for a fine assessment hearing is that fines don't automatically accrue, which is to say that if you don't meet the deadline, you are subject to the fines, but you get to come back and let's say there was a hurricane, or God forbid, actually, let's hope not for that, but there was something like that that prevented compliance. Those are things that I would take into account when assessing the fine. With that said, you should make every effort to comply here. And I will say this, there's no one waiting, so we have a little time here. But as someone that's done this kind of thing for a pretty long time, I would tell you in all candor that the town's position here is actually fairly generous, which is to say they are attempting to give you the time to comply here in a way that I think is pretty generous, that I suspect other municipalities might not be as willing. So in this particular case, the reason I adopted the town's position is because I believe the town's position is a reasonable one. All right.
Okay.
Is there anything further from anybody?
Nothing, Magistrate, thank you.
All right, seeing no further business before us, this meeting is adjourned.